Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the shift cables on your giant Defy. This one just happens to be a Advanced 2 and it's a 21 model, but yours could be very similar. So this one's using a Shimano group set as well. So let's go ahead, let's take a look. Right, so here we have the giant Defy, as you can see. So we've got to change the gear cables in this. Obviously it's manual shift. This is using the Ultegra R8020 on this one. So as you can see, I think it's around a 2020 model. So if you're just wondering where the cables go and how to change them or get them through your frame, if you've got one of these, I'll just show you that. So the first thing we've done is remove the chain from the bike, then we shifted down with the shifter to the 11 tooth at the back, so shifted all the way across, and then the front is shifted down to your inner chainring at the front before we disconnect any cables or anything. So obviously presuming that your gears are all working fine and everything before you disconnect the cables. I mean, we check the adjustments anyway, but if you just want to change your cables because they're worn or anything like that, or you know, for general service, so we know obviously on this particular bike the gears are going up and down fine as they should be, but we'll check the adjustments anyway once we get the when we get the new cables ready to reattach. So what we'll do now is we'll disconnect the cable from the rear derailleur. So obviously we got the cable disconnected. So what you want to do is, after you've disconnected the cable, just go to your barrel adjuster there and make sure obviously that's working correctly, and then screw it clockwise down until it stops at the bottom like that, and then just back it off a couple of turns before we carry on. So next thing, we just remove the outer small piece here off of there like that. Obviously you can keep this for reference to cut a new piece, a new outer, and then inside the frame there you've just got the plug in the end, and then the sleeve just goes in like that. So far just this piece, so you can pull that off and it just leaves your cable like that. So what we've done is unwrap the handlebars to remove the bar tape. So because we need to obviously change the outer cable at the same time, there's no point in doing your inners and not doing the outer cable, especially if you don't know how old they are. So we've unwrapped that off of there, the bar tape, and then I'll just show you on the head tube here where obviously we're doing the rear at the moment, so that's coming round. So you've got your brake hose there, and then your outer cable for your gears, that's coming round and going into the head tube on that side, so I'll just show you that. So the outer cable comes round and goes into your head tube, the lowest port there. So that's just an outer cable, there's no end on it. So now we disconnected the opposite end, you just pull on that, as you see there. You see how rusty that is. It's on the outer cable on the end there. So that just pokes into the plastic part here, which is removable. You just got a 2mm hex head there and a small screw that goes in. So this piece has come out of there. Obviously because we got it disconnected, we can just pull a cable out. So we just leave it like that for now. And then what we'll do is, so because we're doing the front as well, we disconnect the front derailleur, and then we'll do the same with that, and we'll just leave that. So obviously you know that comes out of there now, so you can just poke it back there for the time being. We'll do the same with the front. So here we are with the front mech. Now you disconnect the cable on this, so all we'll do is you can just pop the cover off the top on here, the plastic cover. If you just get hold of that, just pull it up like that, then it just comes round. So you're left with the cable like that. So then you can just snip off your stop on the end, then you can remove that cover off the cable like so. Put that to one side, and then, like I said earlier, this is shifted down to the inner chainring before you disconnect it, and then 4mm hex, same as the rear one. And you can disconnect the cable from underneath there like that. Just leave that disconnected. So now it's disconnected. Obviously if you go up to your head tube, then the same thing will happen up there. You can just pull that slightly out of the head tube. The cable come out now, just slightly. So we got the cable disconnected off the front derailleur. Now on the end there you just got a rubber piece, we should have there, what you can take off of the cable like that. We'll put that back on the new one, so you can put that one side. And as you can see in there, there's a sleeve on the that goes over the cable, and that goes down, and then if you look underneath your bottom bracket you'll see it, the plastic piece under there, so it goes through there and then obviously inside your frame, and then it comes up to the head tube up here inside that plastic bung in there. So there's a tube inside there, so when we disconnect this front cable as it is there, we can pull it as shown the other end. We can just pull that through. Now it's disconnected and there's a tube inside the frame, so we know we can get the new one back through, so you can just carry on and pull that through all the way and out like that, and then we can disconnect that one from the front shifter. So now we're at the shifter end. What you want to do is just remove your plastic cover off of there. Yours could be clear like that or a grey cover. Just pop that off with a little screwdriver there, so it just hangs down like that. And then now we disconnected the cable, all we got to do is just pull that out of there like that, and it'll come out. So we got that disconnected here and at the head tube now. As you can see, just pull it off there, so you can keep this piece as a pattern, and you can just pull that all the way off the cable. And then with the cable here, what you do is you push it back through your shifter that way, like that. You see it just come out there. So there it is there. So you can just carry on now and just pull that all the way out from your front shifter. Pull that through like that. And there's the cable. And you've got your outer as well that you can keep for a pattern. So now we've removed the front cable, as you can see. We'll do the rear. Now on the rear, what I've done is the cable's out here as you saw earlier. All I've done is slid a piece of tube over the cable and inside the frame like that, so that's in there like that. It's going through towards the bottom bracket. So what we've done is we've done the same thing with the rear. All we've done is pulled it out all the way through the frame, so it's just hanging like that, and then again just undo your unclip your plastic cover on the inside like that, and then pull out the end from the shifter there, and then once you got that out you can just push that back through like that and it'll come out just there. Then you can remove that right out of the shifter, and then remember, keep your length of outer for a pattern to make up the new one. So here we have a set of shift cables. So you can get standard ones, the opti-slick cables like these are, or the polymer ones, whichever you want to purchase. So this is a whole kit in here, so it comes with everything you need to do the job with. So we'll get this opened up. So when it comes up to making up some new sections, So you can just use the old one as a pattern, so just put off your end from your shifter like that, and then you can just get your new outer, what comes in the packet, then just hold them next to one another like that, and then cut that at the right length. So after you've cut the cable to the desired length, remember to always just open up the end that you've cut like that, just to make sure that it's not crushed in the end. So we got the outers made up now, so you got your one for your rear derailleur as well, off your chainstay. So you just cut that to length and then put a stop on either end like that. And then the ones for the shifters, what you need is in the packet with the cables. Then you got these outers here, stops that have got the little raised piece on them like that, the bump on there, and that's for the shifter end. These ones are, so there's two of them. So on the end of the ones you made up, the outers for the shifters, you can just put one of those on there, and then one on the other piece you made up for the opposite shifter. You slide them on like that, so you've got one on either end of each of those. So the top hole is for the front derailleur, and the rear holes for the rear derailleur, just in case you forgot which one it was. Now what might happen, so I'll just show you this just in case it's the same on your particular one. What I've done is I've just put the inner cable through. It isn't through the shifter or anything yet, it's just running through like that. Now when you go to put that down, it'll go, because there's a tube inside the frame, plastic tube, so it'll go down so far and it may stop. You'll just hit a stop and then you can't push it in anymore. You don't want to force it because you'll damage the end of the cable. So what I'll do, I'll show you quickly what's happened with this one, this particular one. So underneath the bottom bracket here, you've got two halves, one piece for the rear and the front here. So this is the front one with the piece that goes up through like that and comes out the top in that hole there. So what's happened here is over time it's worn. I'll just try and get a light on it to show you it better, just in case this has happened to your one, and also could affect the shifting as well. So you've got, obviously the piece of plastic runs through the guide like that and goes all the way up to your head tube. In this particular one, as you can see, the cable, the inner there, is coming through, but it's not actually going through the plastic inner. It should be going through here and out the end, but it's not. It's come through a hole because the hole has been worn in this plastic up in there where the carbon fibre goes through. There's a piece there, it's basically an edge. So what it's done is worn a hole in this, and now the inner is sticking out through there, so it's worn through, so that's a tight spot on that point there, up in there, so it's worn a hole in it. So what I've had to do is take this down, pull this out, we'll say there's two halves, the rear and the front, to be able to get the cable to come through. And because it goes down through here and up like that, it'll be the same for the rear one. What happens is this plastic outer here, or the cable's running through, gets kinked very easily because of where it goes a tight bend through here and out and up. It can get kinked, so when you're trying to push the cable through, you'll just hit a stop at the bottom. It's probably because it could have a kink in this, or in this case it's got a hole in it, it's not even going through there. So what we've done is we pulled this out of the frame completely, so I can show you. So I pulled this out of the down tube. What's happened is it's got near the bottom bracket inside the frame, and then as you can see here, it's worn a hole in one of them there, and in the opposite one it's worn a hole in it there. So when you push the new cables down, they're coming out the holes here before you get to the bottom bracket, and then they're sticking out the bottom, but they're not going through where they should be in the cable guide underneath, because they've got 2 holes in them there where it's been rubbing on something under there. It's worn 2 holes. It's just up inside the frame slightly enough so you can't get to those holes because they're up inside the down tube. So with this piece, what we're going to have to do is renew these 2 pieces plastic. So if you pull on them hard enough on there, they do actually pop out of there, and they've got, so they pull out like that. So if you cut a new one, you should be able to slide them up inside like that, and then down in there they've just got this tiny piece that goes on the end. So I'll show you it there. You see that? It sits down inside the hole like that. So it sits in there. So it's the same for both of them. So you can renew these with new lengths of that if you find a couple of holes in it. So we've made up a couple of new lengths of the plastic tube, and then I've just taped them together there at the end, and then I'll slide them both down inside and get them out the bottom, and then we'll put the plastic cover on the end here after we've got it all the way down and out the bottom. So when it comes to putting your inner cable through the shifter, see, what you've got to do is make sure it's shifted down. So this is the front, so make sure it's shifted down before you disconnect the cable on the mech. Then what you want to do is put it through that top slot, so you can see it's slotted there. So put it through the top hole there, and then if you push it through, it'll come out the other side like that. Then you can carry on pulling that all the way through till you hit the stop on the end of the cable. Then get that stop and just put it in the bottom slot there. It's in the big hole in the bottom there. And then pull on the cable the other side. And make sure that that end goes up inside there. So it goes up inside. So as you can see, the end of the cable's up inside there, as you can see there. If it's not up in there, then when you hook it back up, you'll wonder what's wrong with the shifting. So now we've got the inner through, we've slid the outer cable on with the correct end on it for the shifter, like I showed earlier. So we've just slid that all the way on, and then obviously that can go in position there with the bump facing outwards, and then it just goes in the slot on the opposite side of the shifter, goes in that slot there. So it goes in like that, and then goes up inside. You slot that up in there and push it up into position like that, and then you can obviously run that round and then put it in the head tube, slide your inner down through the head tube, and then take this into position on your handlebar when you've got it in place. Put the inner down through all the way to the front derailleur. So what we've done is we've installed the rear cable for the rear derailleur, same process as the front one. Just put it through your shifter, and then when you pull it all the way through, then you can put your outer on, and then put your outer cable round, put it in. Obviously we've renewed those 2 plastic tubes inside the down tube all the way to the bottom, and then like I said, the rear one only goes about that far in the chainstay, and the front one will come up here and then have your plastic, your rubber piece on the end there to stop any water, dirt going down it there. So the rear one only comes into about there, and then there isn't anything all the way to the rear where it comes out, and then you've got your plastic piece that will slide on, which I'll show you again in a minute. So what we'll do is we just thread that new cable through again, put this piece inside the frame, slide that down in to position, put that back in there like that, and then we need to put on the small piece we made up earlier again. Just put that on like that. Just put it down through your barrel adjuster first, locate it in the frame there. We just have to bend that round into position. Make sure that's all the way in. If you have to alter the length of it, you can snip a bit off to make sure that's in there properly and it's not kinked too much when it's going in. So you might have to snip that down if yours isn't going into that barrel adjuster nice. So that's got the small piece of outer back on there. So you've got your cable coming out like that, so ready to go underneath your pinch bolt to hook the cable up. So what we'll do now is we'll put a new cable in underneath the pinch bolt. Just slide that through like that, and then obviously this was working before with the other cable that was in there, so we know that the high and low adjustments were right. Obviously you could shift down to the lowest there, or the highest, whatever you want to call it, and the lowest there, so those two were set okay beforehand, so we don't need to make any adjustments to that or anything. We're just going to hook the cable up. So we'll put it under the pinch bolt there, and when you hook the cable up, make sure you're pulling on the cable towards the front of the bike like that. You're not pulling at an angle or anything like that, because you could alter the derailleur slightly without realising it when you're hooking your cable up. So you could just keep it, some pressure on it. If you want to be able to pull on it, then obviously you're not going to be using this cable right up here. So what you do is just get a pair of pliers like that and grip the cable like that. Just hold it if you can't hold it with your hand, and just pull on it straight towards the front chain rings effectively like that. Put some good tension on it, and then get underneath with your 4mm hex, and then when you're pulling on it, then you can snug up your pinch bolt like that, just grip it, then you can let go, and you can just hold the derailleur and then just pinch that up a bit more, and then if you want to torque it up, you can just torque that up. 5 Newton meters to be adequate on that. Just torque that up if you want to, and then what you do is go up to your shifter. So you haven't got the chain on or anything, we don't need the chain on there. Just go up to your shifter and shift across as though you were shifting up to whatever you got on there, 32, 28, whatever you got on the back. And then just make sure it goes all the way across, and then you can just have a look, make sure that it is lined up with the guide wheel here with your cassette there, and then you can shift back down. Make sure you've got all the gears, just shift up and down a couple of times, make sure you're happy with it before we put the chain on. So we've hooked the cable up on the rear derailleur. We haven't cut its length or anything yet, we just hooked it up and checked it works. And then we're going to do the front mech now. So obviously this worked beforehand, so if yours was working fine beforehand, then all we need to do is hook the cable up effectively. So before we do that, you see on the top here the tension screw there is a 2mm just there. We need to wind that out. At the moment it's wound all the way in. So before we hook the cable up, we need to make sure that is undone. So undo that, and then we need to wind that out. So we get that undone, and then on the back of it here, the plate underneath the head of the pinch bolt comes round and you'll see a piece moves in like that. So as this screw is going through and touching on that, and then that moves that round like that. So you need to make sure that's back round fully this way, and this screw's backed off and it's not interfering with it, because we need to have the full threads on here so you can use it later if you need to make adjustments, and as the cable stretches over time, etc., you can use that to do the cable tension with. So we back that off enough now, and then we'll hook the cable up underneath the pinch bolt. So we just put that underneath the plate like that, then you can bring that round. It's going to come round this way because it needs to go back round and over there, but just to hook it up you just need it so it's just coming off at an angle like that. Then what you got to make sure is the plate underneath the pinch bolt is round and touching on there, because when that goes through, that's what's going to make it push out and move that around like that. So they need to be touching one another when it's hooked up. Again, if you want to pull on this cable, you can pull on it by hand, but towards the further up the cable, because you're not going to be using the cable up here, then you can hold it with a pair of pliers if you want to, and then pull on it towards the front of the bike. So we just pull on that, make sure they're touching there before we do up the pinch bolt on the cable, and make sure also your shifter's shifted down as well to the inner chainring if it isn't already. So just pinch that up for now, like that, and then you can go up to your shifter and shift up, back down a few times, handful of times, just to bed the cable in and make sure it's working properly. And then I'll show you the next step. So after we've hooked the cable up, what we need to do is just check the tension of the cable. So to do that, what we need to do is shift up to the outer chainring and then shift back down just one click, so it's just effectively halfway between the inner and the outer chainring. So if you shift all the way down to the inner one, you've gone too far. You've got to shift up to the outer and then just tap the shifter to change down. Just give it a tap on the lever and it will just change halfway in between the two, just so we can check the adjustment on the lines up here, which I'll show you more closely in a minute. So as you see there, the derailleur just moved in slightly. It didn't change all the way down. I'll change all the way down just to show you that, and then I'll change back up and I'll just click it once. So that's all the way on the inner, that's on the outer chainring, and then you just click it like that and it just moves slightly. So I'll show you these two lines just so you know what to look out for. So in this instance we shifted down like I just showed you, and then you got the lines there, one just above this rivet there, little dash, and then a larger line up the top there. Now as you can see there, those two are lined up like that. We haven't had to make any adjustments to the tension this particular time because we had enough tension on the cable, just so happens when we hooked it up that it's ended up correct. If yours was slightly off, i.e. this top line here was just round over this way slightly and not lined up with that lower one, so it's just over here, then all you do is go to that 2mm there and then wind that in, and then what it would do is it would bring the top line round so it lined up with the little dash at the bottom. That's all it would do. So it just tension it up. So after you've ridden for a while, you can check your own bike just by doing that and just make sure that yours is lined up. after you've ridden it for quite a time, but just in case the lines are out, you can just check your own one at any time. So that's that done. Now we got to obviously put the chain on before we cut any cables to length. We'll put the chain back on and just check that before we cut the cables. So once you've been up and down your gears a few times on the rear, just to check everything's as it should be. If you get one that's slightly out of line, then obviously go to your barrel adjuster. You can turn it anti-clockwise and be tightening the cable up, and then obviously clockwise is the opposite. So once you're happy with all that, then you can just snip your cable and put a stop on it. So you don't want to leave too much sticking out there, because obviously it gets in the way of your spokes. You just put a stop on the end, just crimp that on, and then we'll do the front. So when you're happy with your front derailleur, what you want to do is hook the cable up. So you just need to go round underneath this black piece at the front, underneath the bottom of it there. So you can just move the derailleur over like that, and then just put it down under the front and then let it go. Then with your plastic piece that goes on, it's got a small hole one end and a large hole the other side. So the large hole goes on the cable first. So just put the large hole through like that, out the small hole, and then obviously that goes round. It's going to hold that in place. So it's got a peg sticking in the middle there. It goes down the middle of your pinch bolt. So you slide that up and click that over like that, and then we can just snip that off and put a stop on the end. So we get that in place like that. You don't want to leave this too long, because when you change up to the outer chainring, you wonder what the noise is, and this could be rubbing your tyre. So just check that, make sure it's not too long. So that's the cables replaced now, everything renewed and set up. So all we got to do now is obviously re-wrap the handlebars, and that's that job complete. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.